Welcome to Eyes and Teeth, the world's greatest variety show, Season 15, Edition 6, with the one and only Harry Hill. Harry is about to embark on a brand new UK tour with his new musical, Tony Blair the Rock Opera. So today we catch up and talk about his work as a stand-up comedian, a musical producer, admirer of ventriloquists and their dummies, Sean Locke, and much more. Harry's success on television brought him awards and millions of fans around the UK, but it was his decision to end the TV show that made him a household name, as the schedule was so gruelling, and besides, he's now able to tour his stand-up show, write more books, collaborate with Steve Brown on exciting projects, as well as be at home with his family, instead of watching 12 hours of TV dramas and soaps for little comedy nuggets. Until I read his biography, Fight, I didn't know how much hands-on Harry was in putting together these clips himself. But that is the main reason he wanted more freedom after a good 10 years on ITV. My wife and I loved the show so much, we went along to one of the TV recordings in the studio to watch the magic happen for ourselves. And he had us in hysterics as usual. You know you've made it big when an act on Britain's Got Talent impersonates you on live TV. And that happened in 2010, when my good friend impressionist Paul Berlin got through to the finals of BGT, mainly for his Harry Hill sketches. The public loved Paul because they already loved Harry.
Hello and welcome back to another TV burp. Yeah. Good news, everybody. Yeah, good news. New face for famous orange drink.
I tell you what, it's a real Bobby Dazzler. It's the real deal. I've been tangoed.
Yeah, tangoed, eh? Yeah, tangoed. Anyway, so, on airport this week, there's no planes because of ash cloud.
Ash? Ash? No, it's dust. Yeah. Volcanic dust. No, in fact. So, that artist, go to Iceland.
Yeah. Also as well, right? Yeah, also as well, it's time for EastEnders and Phil Mitchell's TV highlight of the week. What?
One thing Harry does have, as well as his successful career, is that charm, his laid-back nature, and I was delighted he agreed to chat on Eyes and Teeth. And just in time to mention that the Tony Blair Rock Opera is now on sale at the Leicester Square Theatre and is on from April the 15th to May the 21st, 2023, before going on a national tour. Oh, by the way, while I'm here, my theatre tour Ventriloquist and Life in the Day of Arthur Lager, 2 shows for one, continues April to August 2023 and can be seen in Hunstanton, Southampton, Hastings, Bungay, Norfolk, Saddleworth, Verwood, Dorset, Eastbourne, Chelmsford, Stafford, Axminster, Shanklin, Isle of Wight, Ivy Bridge, Bromyard in the Midlands, Haverhill in Suffolk, Paignton and Ilfracombe in Devon. Go to www.thestevehewlettshow.com for dates. Now it's time for a special edition of Eyes and Teeth with Harry Hill.
Well, it's my great pleasure. You know, I'm a big fan of ventriloquists.
I know you are, I know. And Eyes and Teeth, the title of this show, is because of Keith Harris, because he would always sign off, and I knew you knew Keith, so if he signed you text messages, Eyes and Teeth, he would write at the end of his text.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that well, but the funny thing, I had him on the old Channel 4 show I did back in the late 90s.
Oh, yes.
And we just kind of kept in touch. I think he sent me a video. I was very grateful to him because he sent me a VHS of this guy, Ronnie Coyles. Do you know Ronnie Coyles?
Ronnie was wonderful. I saw him in Keith's Pantos on a few occasions.
Right, of course.
Wasn't he great? Yeah.
He was great. And he sent me a video of him on Barrymore's My Kind of People saying, if you ever need a stooge, this is your man. And I did need one. And and he was great. So he came, he did a couple of TV shows for me, and he did a live tour with me, and I spoke at his funeral actually in Morecambe.
Oh, bless him. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he was the last of he was like a dying breed. Well, he's a dead breed, but all that
Yeah.
song and dance man, old fashioned song and dance man.
Yeah, wonderful. And I saw him do tap dance on one of your shows, but and he
Yeah.
walks on with a frame and then he ends up tap dancing. So you got him to do the wackiest of things and dressing up in fancy dress. But Ronnie had a great visual face, didn't he, for comedy as well? Really, really great visual. Almost like a ventriloquist dummy, bless him. So
And people think it's easy to get a stooge. They think it's just anyone who sort of stands there, but actually there's a lot to it. It's a lot more to it, I think.
Yeah, definitely not something you can learn, really. It's good. You've got to be natural, really, for that sort of comedy, haven't you, I guess? And to be a stooge, you're working with a comedian like yourself, so you have to be you have to connect with that person as well, which has to be very important, like a ventriloquist with its dummy.
Yeah, and you have to be, and I've tried in the past to use comedians, but of course we've all got big egos and we want to get the laughs ourselves. So that's another big part of it.
That's true.
I'm happy to share the limelight.
Oh, bless. So where did your fascination with ventriloquist dolls come from? Because you're always, I love your shows because of that as well. You're always featuring Gary, and you got a little ventriloquist figure. And
well, I'm more keen on the dummies than the vents.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a child of the 70s, I don't know how old you are, Steve.
Late 40s now.
Okay, so you're a bit younger, but if you were a child of the 70s, they were on TV all the time, and they were massive stars. Keith, like, as he pointed out to me, Wish I Could Fly sold 1 million copies, I think, of
incredible.
Is it called Wish I Could Fly? Anyway, that's his big #1 hit. So there was him, and there was
Ray Allen, Lord Charles, Neville King. Do you remember Neville King when he bashed the dummy about?
Oh yeah.
Neville King, granddad.
So I've always been. Oh yeah, right, yeah. And Nookie Bear and
Roger,
on the Channel 4 show as well. And who's the other one? Oh, with the lion, Lenny.
Terry Hall. Terry Hall, yes.
Yeah, Terry Hall.
Don't embarrass me.
Yeah, and so they were like big stars. And so I've always been interested in the form of variety.
Yes.
Well, no, of variety. So just like I'm interested in like eccentric dancers or speciality acts, these things that people don't really do in the same way now. Because I've always been interested in how you can sort of reinvent it for the the modern age. I mean, obviously what I do is not ventriloquism at all. It's just sort of.
And I have my son Gary, who's he's a bit quiet today. He's in a trance-like state. Come on, Gary, wake up. Say hello. Oh yes. Hello everyone. Victoria, is that you? What's that awful smell, Daddy? I think it's the sports.
I think it's John Watson.
It's John Watson, the sports guy. I didn't know his name was John Watson. I've heard of him before, Daddy. So Gary comes on. Don't you, Gary? I mean, I'm not a trained ventriloquist, Victoria.
You would have never guessed. You would have never guessed.
But yes, it's been a lot of fun. And Gary does some of his jokes, don't you, Gary? Yes, I do some of my jokes and some of my impressions.
Yeah. Didn't a producer once tell you your lips are moving when you were doing Stufo? Yeah, and they didn't get it. They didn't get it, did they? Didn't get the humor of that. Ventriloquist.
No, I mean, if I could have done it without moving my lips, I would have. But but also as a kid, I can remember on TV, particularly on TV, it's a very hostile environment for a ventriloquist in a way, because everyone is a close up and everyone's looking at your mouth.
Yes. And
I can remember, just sort of being glued to watching Ray Allen's mouth to see if it could, if it was moving. And I mean, for me, he was obviously technically really good, but I never found him particularly funny. I wasn't mad about his jokes,
Yeah, very upper class, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think that sometimes there's a slight lag for me. So, I mean, I've been on the same bill as Nina Conti, of course, who I think is really funny, and obviously, I don't know what you think of her technique, but it seems to me that she's very accomplished.
Yeah, she's flying the flag. She's doing great. She's in New York now touring. So Nina's, up there. When you say the top three, when I started out in the 80s learning, I always talked about Ray Allen, Keith Harrison, Roger de Courcy, and now it's Nina Conti, Paul Zerdin. We haven't got those guys anymore. So there's very few to talk about.
There was an American guy who came over for a while. He was in, I saw his show in Edinburgh.
David Strassman. Yeah, David's brilliant. Really good.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, I don't really like those American puppets. They're a little bit cheesy. What I like is that Gary, this one that I've got, who I got off. I mean, I had this sketch on the old Channel 4 show called the Ventriloquist Society of Great Britain.
Oh, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Ventriloquist Society of Great Britain with their production of Oliver. Fun of speaking with your mouth closed. So it did the Ventriloquist Society of Great Britain do the Take That story, and so I got John Stiles. You know John.
I know John. Yeah.
Of course you do. Yeah, and he got together a whole load of I don't know how many there were, maybe 4 or 5, maybe more ventriloquists with these dummies of his, and so I got to know these people, particularly John, and he has got a number of dummies.
He's got a collection, hasn't he? Good collection.
He has, which I mean, I really covet that collection, and I've got a few myself. I've got maybe 1, 4 or something.
Okay.
And if my wife would let me, I'd have more. It's
I'm the same. If she'll let me, I've been selling mine throughout the pandemic.
Well, if you've got any, I'd be interested. How much do they cost these days? I bought 2 off. Gary came from John, and also this other one I've got, a little one like that. That was okay. But Gary is I think he's from the 30s. John seemed to think he's from the 30s. I mean, their faces. This particular makers used to make different faces, and so John will tell you.
Yeah, I know there's like Lenin Soul, but there's Quisto. I think yours may be a Quisto. Gary looks like a Quisto, I think, which is one of those styles.
How do you spell that?
How do you spell it? I think it's Quisto, and he may be using ventriloquist as to shorten that name to make Quisto as his.
Oh, I see.
I believe so. So I'm just finished writing a book this year, so it's all about ventriloquists. And it's, I cover all those guys who have been talking about, but I go back 100 years and I talk about Jeff Dunham, the people on America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, all those sort of things. But it's, I talk about, it's just ventriloquists because that's all I've ever done,
Yeah, sure.
35 years now. But I love classic comedians as well. I know you adore Spike Milligan, and he done this really, really good Australian stand-up show in 1984 in a college. Have you seen that? It's on YouTube. No. I had it on a VHS once, and it's the style of comedy that I see kind of Harry Hill doing. It's wacky, it's funny, and it's just really, really good comedy, and funny. But it's Spike Milligan at his best in '84. Yeah, if you just look it up, it's his live stand-up show. Yeah. And the Goons and Monty Python,
Yeah, I did see him live a couple of times. Yeah. It was. I mean, it was later on. It was a bit hit and miss, to be honest. I mean, but did he do anything with the ventriloquist? I mean, the bit I
don't think he did. No.
The bit I really liked was the Immortal and Wise routine with the vent dummy.
Oh, isn't it great? They filmed that in Croydon. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, that massive one.
Yes. Yes. Have you seen John T and Ian do the Morecambe and Wise tribute? Little Eric and Little
No,
Ernie on the tour, because
no.
I've lent them one of my ventriloquist figures, which I
Oh,
started with,
really?
and they opened the second half with it. And Harry, if you get a chance to see Eric and Little Ern tour near you, and again, I'll send you a link when they're touring again, but just to see the vent sketch, because they reenact the Morecambe and Wise do it, not the big one, but the little
Right,
routine.
right.
When
The
he's
little one, yeah, the little one's the one that's on the live video, isn't it?
yes, but they do it so well. It's really well depicted.
Ice and Steve.
Yeah, the comedy. I spent my teens watching Channel 4 in the early years, in the 80s, and I remember your first performances on television, and it was wonderful to see.
Take a chance on me, I'm a Malafat P. Now, do you ever get that, you ever get that feeling when you just do anything for a piece of cheese? I bought a computer, right? This week I bought a computer, but I don't think I'm getting the best out of my computer, right? Basically, I turn the computer on, like that. I turn the brightness up, like that. And I use it as a light. And I don't think I'm getting the... Why do the squirrels bury the acorns, though, eh? It's just what the oak tree wants, isn't it? Why don't the squirrels take the Brazil nut cases, polish them up, make little shoes out of them? It seems obvious to you, right, isn't it? I'll tell you why not, because if a squirrel steps out of line, he ends up each foot embedded in a toffee in the canal. Now, my dad... Look. And now I am a little tiny dove. Not really, of course, the power of suggestion. Now, my dad, very mean man, my dad. He had my mum hypnotised not to order a starter. I never saw my granddad because he was excellent at hiding. But one thing, throwing. My dad taught me one thing. He was a mean man. The best bit of a chop, my dad taught me, right? Pork or lamb, they're the main two, aren't they? Pork and lamb, they're the main two. That's what I remember. You've got to have a system. Marlon Brando, Suzanne Dando, two very...
You always remember the collar, of course. I worked in Cardiff in pantomime at Christmas, and when my wife first saw my costume, she says, "You're not wearing that shirt, are you?" She says, "You look like Harry Hill." And I said, "Great, I want to look funny." So that, I mean, they made the costume, and it was just a big collar and big shorts, and I was Muddles in Snow White. But it's the look, that you've always.
Was it the new theatre?
Yes, the
Cardiff?
new theatre. Did you go there on
Lovely
your tour?
theatre.
Isn't it?
It's a lovely theatre, yeah, nice people there, and yeah, the big collar thing. I mean, you said you've got my book, and I explain it in that. But I mean, basically, it wasn't really a plan. It was just that I had this shirt with a big collar that I liked. I mean, I used to travel around in that outfit on the tube to gigs, and I thought it was cool. It was just like a thing. I used to buy my clothes from charity shops, and back in the 90s when I was starting out, charity shops had clothes from the sort of 70s and the 60s. So that's how. And then I noticed that people would comment on it, and it's that old adage of every comedian, if it works, keep it in. So
yeah.
So then when I got a bit of money, I got someone to make me some shirts with bigger collars.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, and the breakthrough basically, and it wasn't deliberate, but I mean, people impersonate me quite a bit, like fancy dress and stuff. But the thing they get wrong is that they make the front bit big, which it is big, but the main thing is it's the back of it. It's the collar all the way around.
Right. Okay. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it stands up.
Okay.
Otherwise it would just be we would just sort of flop down. And it was, that's just like this shirt maker. I mean, there used to be he retired, and my other shirt maker retired. There used to be a lot of these old guys, doing sort of when light entertainment involved costumes.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's true.
There used to be a lot. So he used to make me those. Yeah.
Yeah, Peter Brough, who worked Archie Andrews. I don't know, you're very young, but yeah, Peter Brough, who worked Archie, because I did the voice for a stage play, and I brought Archie Andrews back to the stage. But Peter Brough's father was a ventriloquist as well, but he had a textile business, so they would get people to do shows with them, and they wouldn't pay them. They would send them shirts because they made shirts. They had a textile business, and so Peter took that business on as well. That's strange. I'm just linking shirts and ventriloquists. It seemed to work.
Because that guy, Archie, didn't he come up for sale recently, or relatively a few years ago?
Yes, somebody in Sussex near me bought the dummy for £40,000, and then they went on Newsnight. They were looking for a voice to do the voice of Archie, and I got the job. So we co-wrote a play together. We called it Re-Educating Archie, and we done a radio stage play on stage. We did it on the stage, and it was half variety show, half Educating Archie. And we used Dave Evans played Max Bygraves and Harry Seacombe, and Dave was brilliant entertainer. Lee Evans, Lee's dad, Lee. And and his father Dave, who I worked with on ships for 10 years, was just incredible. He played Harry Seacombe and Bygraves. It was just wonderful. But I worked with the original £40,000 dummy on my knee, so that's an expensive knee. That was quite a nerve-wracking job.
Yeah, it's a shame, Lee. I mean, I sometimes we have the same tailor, and I see that, and he sees him every now and then because he still goes in and gets stuff made. But I just think to myself, what is he doing? Because he was always such a bag of a ball of energy, Lee.
Yeah,
sort of wandering around the house or sort of playing golf or whatever people do when they retire.
I know. I know that Dave Evans, his father, told me before we lost Dave that he was still writing and with his partner. And he also went to, the last thing he did was a Pinter play, and I went to see the Pinter play, and he was brilliant. It was Harold Pinter in London in the Pinter Theatre. So he always kept his hand in, but he promised Jonathan Ross he was quitting, and promised his wife he was quitting. And I guess it must be hard. He must be, like 8 years later, itching to get back out there, I guess. But maybe he's kept his promise. Yeah, he's a private man, bless him. But
conversational.
Yeah. So your autobiography, Fight, was fantastic because you really teach in phases. You teach people how to write comedy, how to build an act, how to go out there and deal with hecklers and everything. And I loved that you were passing that on to another generation. It was such a wonderful, heartfelt thing to do, because you go into detail and you talk about your write-ups, good or bad. You don't shy away from any of the bad ones like I don't. You've got to be honest because everyone struggles now and again,
Well, I think, that it's really the things that haven't worked out, flops, if you like, failures, whatever, are much more interesting than the successes. I mean, not at the time. The time we all, we go to bed and can't sleep and think it's over and all the rest of it. But in retrospect, actually, given enough time, you can laugh at them, and you get much better stories out of a flop than a success. No one really wants to hear a comedian say, "Yeah, and I smashed it." It doesn't go anywhere, does it? That story.
No.
But if you get heckled off or booed off, or if you're so I don't have any problem with that, and I think to keep interested in the creative process, you have to take risks.
Yeah, definitely. I took a risk just before Panto.
Right.
I went up to Glasgow, and it was a room of 800. There was 750 male football fans and 50 females. And I should have just turned back when I knew that, but they were paying me well. And it was full of sports fans, and they were Glaswegians. It was a Saturday night. I went on at 10 p.m. No one wants a puppet show at 10 p.m. in Glasgow when it's football related. So I did my 25 minutes. I meant to do 30.
What were they thinking?
I know. You accept it at the time. You think, yeah, that'd be a nice wage before Panto. That will feed the kids. And then 25 minutes into it, 5 minutes into it, I knew I was losing, but I did my time. And then I did a routine right at the end. And the boss behind me just leant forward at the back of the stage and went, I think you should admit defeat. They hated me, Harry. And I just thought, okay, I admit for defeat, And then I said my last gag, which got a really good laugh. And I said, I should have opened with that. And then I walked off, and I still got paid. But it was Glasgow. And I drove home in the morning. So the 9-hour drive and when you've got that drive home, you really think about your gigs, don't you?
Yeah, but that's I always think driving, having a decent drive after a gig is quite a good way of coming down, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually often if I've had a gig that was a bit tough, by the time I've got home, I'm just thinking, what's in the fridge?
I love this. I love the thing you say to a heckler about having a chicken in the oven ready.
Yeah. Well, these are the important things, aren't they? Food. I did one. Those corporates. I mean, for anyone who's listening to this who is not in show business, there is this sort of hidden world, isn't there, that no one talks about, which is the dirty corporate gigs we all do, which are can be really, really tough. And I remember doing one. It was my agent. It was like the first one I ever did. My agent said, "Oh, it's a group of GPs, doctors, a group of doctors." And I said, "Well, look, you can tell them now. I don't do any medical jokes, really. I may have one or two, but that's not what I do. Tell them to watch the act. Send them a video of the act." And like you, I needed the money, so and I turn up to this thing, and I'm billed as Harry Hill with tales of his life as a GP. So I go on. I just do my act, nothing, and then about 20 minutes in, a light bulb blew, and that got a laugh. And I said, I think that's the best laugh I'm going to get tonight. Thanks very much. Good night.
Really, that was your exit. They laugh at the light bulb. Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I've seen everyone die at those corporates. The most well known.
Yeah, they're tough. I've worked with some great acts and compares, Rob Beckett, and it's nice when it goes the other way. Was it the one I done with Rob? Was great.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah,
Crottenden. Yeah, really nice gigs with them. So thankfully, not all bad. But
yeah, Sean Locke used to sort of take pride in doing like the toughest corporates.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Yeah, and he did this one for scaffolders. Like 1,200 scaffolders in a hotel, where some back and beyond. I said to him, what do you do for that? He said, I just wrote 22 jokes about scaffolders.
Surely he's going to get one or two laughs from that. And you told her really, it was at the Comedy Awards. You'd done a really lovely tribute to Sean Locke. And I saw that on YouTube yesterday. It was really heartfelt, it's difficult to open with a funny line when you've got something like that to do at the posthumous, but the audience love you already anyway, and they know that you're there because you're a great mate of Sean's, and he would have laughed. So it was so nice though what you said. I mean, must have been difficult to keep that together.
Tonight is a great opportunity to celebrate all that British comedy has to offer, whilst also remembering why we're here. We've all been affected by cancer in one way or another, and last year, the comedy world lost one of our own, the incredible Sean Locke. Please welcome Sean's dear friend, Harry Hill, to introduce a very special film about a very special man.
Yes, it's posthumous tribute time. Posthumous tribute of the week. Remember that one? Now, not everyone will get a posthumous tribute, of course, will they? I wasn't looking at you in particular. Now, now one of the problems I have talking seriously about Sean Locke is that I can always hear him in my ear taking a piss. I think he knew what he meant to us comics. He was happy to be called the comedian's comedian, but I think he would have been surprised and heartened by the response to his death from everyone at home. And I know his wife Anushka and his 3 children have taken a lot of comfort from it, so keep all those clips and tributes coming. He was deeply cynical about social media, of course. He only ever made one tweet, which I can't repeat as I am a family entertainer. I said to him, well, I only do Instagram. He said, that's like an alcoholic saying they only drink beer. Most people, I guess, will know him from Cats Do Countdown, where, of course, he's always funny, unpredictable, and exciting. But that was just a small part of him. We all keep a little bit back. Those of us who are lucky to know him as a friend will know that as well as being a lot of fun to be around, he was also a serious man. Smart, super bright, someone you could have a proper conversation with. And it's his seriousness, as much as his humour, that I miss. He does give himself away sometimes, though, and that's those bits on Countdown when he laughs. When he laughs, that's when you see the real Sean. Long may Channel 4 run those repeats.
Yeah. Well, that was obviously a great. I mean, I knew him really well in the 90s. We used to hang around, because we were both, when we were on the circuit in the clubs. The great thing about that was that it was a good social. You'd bump into each other, or be on the same bill, you go for a drink, or hang around, hang out. But then the problem is when you get success. So I got some success, he got some success, and you don't. You then tend to just do your own thing.
Yeah.
So I would go on tour, he'd go on tour. We wouldn't be in the same town. We wouldn't be on the same bill. So it was. So I didn't see much of him for a long time, except maybe at benefits. The only time you get well-known comedians together really is, unless it's a TV thing, it's a benefit show. And then so when he told me he was ill, I made a special effort to reconnect with him, which was great. But then of course doubly hard when he didn't make it through.
Yeah. There was a lot of love in the room at the Comedy Awards. You could see it on people's faces, So yeah. Bless.
Well, I mean, the thing about him was he's such a strong person, such a strong. I mean, physically strong, and also, mentally such a sort of strong person that I think everyone who didn't, he kept it quiet that he was ill, and it was just a huge shock for a lot of people, I think, because he was always so, he's just the last person you'd think that would succumb,
Yeah, of course, a huge shock. In the early days, you must be inspired by watching all the greats starting out at the same time as you, because you got to see the early days of Joe Brown, Jack D, Lee Evans, Stuart Lee, Neil Mullarkey, and Mike Myers. Great era of comedy. I mean, the 80s when you started just must have been wonderful. Like you say, social as well. Social and.
Well, I really started in the 90s, but I used to go and see a lot of all those people you mentioned. I used to go and see them in the late, sort of 80, from about 85 when I moved to London, basically. And that in a way was a kind of golden age of those stand-up clubs, I think, I mean, I was saying to Sean that we kind of had the best of it, our generation, because the previous generation had done all the work setting up the clubs and the circuit and breaking through to TV, and then we sort of came along and reaped the rewards, and the whole scene has changed a lot now. There's not an easy living to be made. When I was doing it, it was I'd be doing 3 or 4 gigs a night on a weekend. We'd be working, you could almost work every night. And it was all cash, it was just like cash.
Yeah, cash. Constant club to club around London, wasn't it? It's just 3 or 4 in a night.
Yeah, it was very exciting. It was very exciting, out of towners, and it was, yeah. And like you say, there were some it was a bit more forgiving, I think, the circuit then as well, because there were, you know, when I first started going to those sort of clubs, it was kind of billed as alternative cabaret. So you would see a juggler and a poet and
Yeah,
someone with a guitar, you know,
it's very prop related and variety. Yeah, based.
yeah. And there were a few special acts. You know, there was this guy, Steve, what was his name?
Rawlings.
Well, Steve Rawlings, brilliant. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he was my support act on a tour.
Oh, really? Yeah, we love Steve.
But he was far too funny. You know, it was a good job we had an interval because I wouldn't have been able to follow him, I don't think. Yeah, there was this guy, Steve, what was his name? He did this thing with teddy bears.
Oh.
He used to put a teddy bear on a turntable, you know, a record player, sideways like that, and throw darts at it. It was a special act with teddy bears.
It sounds special.
Yeah, it was sort of a kind of dark version of Tommy Cooper.
Well, okay.
Yeah, Steve. What the hell was his name? Anyway,
I'll have to Google that. You mentioned a lot of the comedians. I've done comedy clubs with people like Dominic Holland, Andre Vincent, Richard Morton, Miles Crawford, and Bob Mills recently. Brilliant comics. But yeah, do you still do warm-ups in clubs before you go on to do your theatre tours?
I mean, everyone does. There's no shortcuts. I mean, that's the frustrating thing, is that you never, however long you've been doing it, you never really know what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I've missed the trick this year.
You might have a better idea of what will work, and if something is really good, you know straight away probably that's going to work.
Yeah.
But you always have to refine it. You know, you can't just go out in front of 1,200 people or whatever it is and try your luck. You know,
no, it's got to be practiced well.
I think so. You know, I think if people are paying, I always think of I have all this slight anxiety about. You know, sometimes I look through the curtains and see all these people. I think, God, they've all paid 30 quid or whatever it is to come and see me. So I think there's a responsibility to deliver. You know, you've got to, and you want them to come back.
Yeah, of course. Was your recent tour Pedigree Fun? Was that recorded for DVD?
It wasn't. No, I mean that market. I mean, I think there is still a market. I mean, the DVD market's gone, but I think it's for younger people, really. You know, I think broadcasters and stuff, they want. You know, they want your probably your Rob Beckett's and your Ramesh Ranganathans, you know, and I think that's fair enough. You know, I think it's you know, it tends to be younger people who buy this stuff, and they want to see people who look like them, I guess. So I mean, I didn't really go into it in huge. You know, I didn't chase it particularly hard. Trying to record it because I used a lot of music and visuals that I didn't have clearance for, and once you get into that, the whole thing starts to get compromised. So
yeah, of course.
You know, and also I didn't really miss. You know, I've always recorded videos. Not all of mine, but a lot of my tours I recorded them, and it always slightly affected the show. Just the presence of the cameras.
When you know it's being filmed, yes.
Yeah, there's more pressure on you, but also the audience are aware of them. And I kind of thought, well, there's pros and cons to recording it. I mean, I recorded it for myself, obviously, but there's pros and cons to having it out there. And the big con is you can't use that stuff much again.
Yeah, that's true. Once it's out there, it's been seen, isn't it? Harry, you've done so much. I mentioned everything in the intro earlier today, but you've got coming up this fantastic rock opera. Now, this is the Tony Blair rock opera, and I'm looking forward to coming to see it. I know it's coming to Brighton, I believe. It's on tour this year. Can you give us a rundown on this brand new spectacular that's coming, which we can't wait for?
Well, it starts at the Leicester Square Theatre. It starts in, I think it's April. Is it April? Yeah. April or May. Anyway, and it's as you say, it's going on a funny little tour. So it's Brighton. It's in July, isn't it? In Brighton.
Yes.
Kind of summer tour, and basically, I did the. I was involved in the X Factor musical, which was a lot of fun, but didn't run really. Only ran.
I can't sing. Yeah.
I can't sing. Yeah, it ran for 6 weeks at the Palladium.
Been singing since I was 5. It's all that keeps me alive. I swear to God I'm my own now. People tell me I could be as big as Madonna. My chance for fortune and fame. My house has been repossessed. My little dog is depressed. I've so much beauty to give.
I've only 3 months to live.
You gotta give me a go. I can't believe it's a no.
I'm not like ordinary men. I fear I might kill again. The ITV talent show first aired in 2004. Produced stars like Leona Lewis, Ollie Murs, and Steve Brookstein.
Oh, if it's an ITV show you're talking about, I wouldn't know anything about it because of my grandfather's iron lung. It interferes with the ITV signal. Well, did. He passed away 4 days ago. And my house is due to be demolished, and I've got no money, and I've got nothing. I'd kill for a backstory like that.
But basically, although it got good reviews, it was sort of perceived as a flop. I mean, it lost money, which was really a real shame because the process of it was just such great fun. So basically, I came away from it thinking, oh, I'd love to do that again. But I think largely because it was such a big flop, I couldn't get any. Couldn't get anyone interested in doing anything else. So I wrote this. I thought the Tony Blair story was a good one because his story is such a great arc, that he starts off basically as a sort of peace-loving hippie in a band at university. Then he becomes Britain's most successful Labour Prime Minister. And then, of course, everything goes wrong. And even though he did a lot of good things, he'll be remembered for largely, I think, the war in Iraq. And so it's a great kind of story arc. And basically, I put it on with Steve Brown, who wrote all the songs. I managed to persuade him to, who I worked with on the X Factor thing. He wrote in some of that.
Yes.
And I put some money. I paid the actors to do a workshop, and it went incredibly well, actually. And the thing I'd learned from, and this is the thing about failures, is you learn from them. And the thing I learned was to keep the budget low. So the budget was, about 600 quid
Yeah.
as opposed to 6 million quid, So it was, and that, so the upshot of it is it's going on this tour. And I don't know about you, but whenever I go to musicals, theatre shows, they always billed as, or often, if they're a comedy, they're billed as hilarious, laugh out loud, funny, and all that. And I often sit there
waiting for that.
Yeah. And there's this thing that a friend of mine coined called theatre laughs, which people are so desperate to laugh that they will laugh at virtually anything. But what I wanted to write was something that was just really, really funny, so that you'd go to see it and you'd laugh as many times as you would and as hard as you would when you go to see a stand-up. And to a large extent, I think me and Steve have achieved that with this little musical. So, if you are listening and want to laugh.
Brilliant. Well, I know you've worked with Steve Brown quite a lot. He's toured with you, in their little duo, and he's done 2 musicals now with you. We can't wait to see it, Harry. And thank you for bringing the joy that you bring. It's just a joy. I've been watching TV Burp on YouTube with my family all week this week. They love you. And we just love what you bring. And thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. Thanks for being on Eyes and Teeth, and good luck with Tony Blair, the rock opera.
Thanks, Steve. See you again.
Eyes and Teeth. Thanks so much to Harry Hill for his time talking about his career. Thanks to those clips I included from YouTube, including Harry's tribute to Sean Locke from Channel 4 Entertainment. His ventriloquism for Victoria Fritz was from the Bournemouth Daily Echo YouTube clip. The Ventriloquist Society of Great Britain singing Oliver by Adam Shepherd on YouTube. Carla Fong, 69, on YouTube sharing Harry's 1996 stand-up. And the I Can't Sing pieces are from their YouTube channel. Music and lyrics by Steve Brown and scripts by Harry Hill. Today's quote comes from Sean Locke. Interesting fact, a shark will only attack you if you're wet. Eyes and Teeth is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals by Lola, Larissa and Nina Hewlett. Additional vocals by Rich T. The Eyes and Teeth music and jingles are produced and performed by Kevin Dean. Join me on another edition of Eyes and Teeth, the world's greatest variety show, when I talk to the wonderful storyteller and performer Mama G, aka Robert Pierce.